Hey y'all, it's Tammy with Collard Valley Cooks, and today we are making a delicious homemade red velvet cake.
Y'all, it's delicious. She really said that. She said, I think that's the best cake I've ever tasted. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in 2.5 cups of plain flour. And now I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of cornstarch and whisk this together. Now we have cake flour, and I'm going to set that aside. Now we're going to mix up our dry ingredients for our cake. We're going to start with 1 3/4 cups of sugar. These are 1/2 cup scoops, so that's 1 1/2. And 1/4 makes 1 3/4. There's our sugar. Now we need 2.5 cups of flour. Now this is the flour we just mixed up to make it into cake flour. There's 1/2, 1 cup. Two cups. And 1/2. Okay, you can see we have some extra after making that into cake flour. So now we have our flour in. We're going to add 3 teaspoons of baking powder. A 1/2 teaspoon of soda. We're going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We're going to add 3 tablespoons of cocoa.
Dry ingredients are ready, so now we're going to start mixing up our cake.
Stick and 1/2 of butter. I'm going to add a little bit of our dry ingredients, a little bit of milk. I'll just go ahead and add all the milk. Now we're going to add a tablespoon of vinegar. We're going to add cooking oil, 2 eggs at room temperature, I'm going to continue to add my dry ingredients. I'm going to add a small container, which is 1 fluid ounce of red food coloring. I'm going to add vanilla. I'm going to turn this off and make sure that I get all the food coloring off the sides and onto the beater. Now you should have go ahead and scrape the sides and bottom of your bowl, and you should have your temperature of your oven on 350, and it should be preheated. And we're going to let this bake for 2 minutes on low.
This homemade cake recipe is in our Volume 1 cookbook. Visit our website today at www.collardvalleycooks.com. Buy cookbooks and kitchen supplies. Bake the cake at 350 degrees. Now we're going to use butter, cream cheese, powdered sugar, a little vanilla and cream to make some delicious cream cheese icing for your red velvet cake. My description has the recipe. Every video that I do does have a recipe listed at the bottom of the description post. This example of icing a cake is with red velvet layers that I made thinner. You put 1 cup of batter in an 8-inch layer. Remember, it's 8-inch. And you bake it for 10 to 15 minutes. Flip it out. Then you're going to want to freeze these layers. You wrap them really good with plastic wrap and get them in the freezer so that when you ice it, you're less likely to get crumbs in the cake. Okay, when you ice the cake, make sure you put plenty of icing on it. Put the icing on the top of it and then push it down the side. Of course, I'm going to show you a tip at the end, so it really doesn't matter with red velvet. Okay, here's the tip. It's great for red velvet and carrot cake and hummingbird cake, and that is toast you some delicious pecans and coat the outside with the pecans. Then we can put a border on the top, and it's just going to be beautiful. I'm about to taste this cake for y'all, and remember, this is actually the layer that I made that's made out of a cake mix. I have two different recipes for red velvet. The cake mix one is just as good as the homemade one, so look that up.
And I'm sure it's going to be delicious. Y'all, it's delicious.
My red velvet cake that I make with a cake mix, I use a white cake mix, and you can also look that up on YouTube. The recipe will be in the description post as well.
All right. See you later.